he won't do, because this is not what they were told. That they had agreed on something. Then suddenly the thing is changed. So he won't do. He won't do again. Is he justified?
Well, I think following the meeting of the Council of Elders.
Yeah, National Council.
National Council was explained that per their constitution, they have the power to give direction in matters like this. And so the decision they took was per the powers given to them by the NPP constitution. You know, so the interpretation is what the issue is. And I have said, during the week, that is it because of costs that they are taking decisions to reduce the numbers and make the election simpler? Or some had even suggested that they just push the two in to have 6, which will also be a constitutional matter. So at every step of the way, we're going to have a constitutional, if you like, gap, which will be subject to interpretation. He didn't wait for the interpretation, or he didn't push for the interpretation, and he decided to opt out.
Well, he wrote here that Section 25 of the party's constitution, that in the event of 2, 3, or 4 contestants sharing the total results with the remaining contestants not obtaining any votes, there will be a runoff for those who obtained 0 votes to add up to the number to make up the 5. In the event of a tie between 2 or more candidates for the 5th position, a runoff shall be conducted for those who will tie on Saturday, September 2, 2023. These and only these are what our constitution and published guidelines mandate as lawful and constitutional. So he says that the position that it is no longer the 961 who will make that decision, but just a few who are the National Council. And mind you, the National Council are former chairmen, former secretaries, general secretaries, current general secretaries, former running mates, presidential candidates, the current president. It's just the people at the top. There have been conversations about an establishment candidate. He thinks that putting these people in the room, especially if you look at the faces that have endorsed some of the candidates because they are appointees and all of that, as has been said, he thinks that it will not be fair. And I remember that on Saturday when we had the coverage, Professor Michael Boakye had, after that presser to announce the results, right, by Sri Boakye of the Dr. Sri Boakye of the Electoral Commission, Director of Electoral Services, Professor Michael Boakye was asked that question about the tie.
Yes.
And he was very emphatic that there's going to be a runoff on Saturday. And he said everybody was going to vote. So Agyarko is asking the question, how did they transition from 961 people voting?
Well, he says 955
yes, as voted then.
Yes.
But the register that was presented to the press was 961. It's for 17 different electoral or polling stations across the country. He's asking the question how we were able to trim the number down now to
the same thing I was saying, that the man is resorting to the constitution.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I see the way the document is, constitution is such that everybody will pick a bit of it to suit his position, his agenda. That's how people treat the constitution. That's why sometimes it goes up to the Supreme Court for final interpretation, because anybody who also wants to defend the National Executive Council would also look at a certain session.
Do we know what portion they are standing on to trim down the numbers? Because if that provision existed, I think that then there could be what Agyarko is saying would not stand. Because what he's saying is that this is what our constitution says. It is not clear from what he's written if there is some leeway that allows for the trimming of 955 to 135. If such a provision exists, which one is it?
The trimming of the number would not be stated in the constitution, black and white, as per if you get this number. What the constitution said, I'm looking for the actual section.
I'm sure that the constitution
that maybe gives the National Council the power to give direction when there's a gap like this in any, and that's what they are standing on too.
Well, was there a gap? That's the question. Because
there's a certain issue. They are looking at as I said yesterday, they're looking at even the cost of running the whole thing using the entire 961 plus people. Again, they're looking at the fact that the party may not have the resources, and they're also looking at the national economic situation. And this is the information that I got from the discussion that they were having yesterday.
Okay.
And so that group that took the decision per the constitution has the power to give direction. So that's the interpretation that the party has given to the power that they have
but
to reduce the number.
If they have the power to give direction, they gave direction to a certain presidential electoral committee, okay, led by a lawyer, former speaker, founding member of the NPP, political scientist, Professor Aaron Boakye, to handle, right? And they left them to do their work. On Saturday, when Professor Boakye mentioned that they were going to have the runoff with the full-blown, whatever it is, the General Secretary and everybody else who was in that special National Council meeting, which was held yesterday, was there. And I'm not sure that they decided in a vacuum to just come out like that, because the rules were set before the elections were held. And so they were just following through with whatever rules they had set and agreed. And I'm sure that the National Council, for whatever reason, may supervise the electoral committee that was set up to be headed by Professor Boakye. So how did they, and that's the question, it's a legitimate question that he's asking, that you told us that we will conduct ourselves in A, B, C, D manner.
Right.
We have traveled half of the journey, and suddenly you are changing the rules. You have not explained to us why you are changing the rules, but you are changing the rules, and I don't think that the rules are fair in the present circumstances. So I cannot participate in the new game that you are bringing.
The Constitution giving the council the powers to direct makes it very broad, because on the one hand, even where they've come and said we're going to follow our rules, we know that at the time, I think the party would have hoped that one candidate would have withdrawn. That would have been the hope, the deep hope, that one candidate, so that they don't even have to deal with it.
In fact, that question came up on Saturday.
Yes.
Professor Boakye says
it did come up.
We are not there. Because what I know, and Professor Boakye was very emphatic, said what I know and what we agreed on was that if there's a tie, there's going to be a runoff, and that runoff will happen next Saturday. Because I remember the journalist asked him.
Yes.
You remember?
Yeah,
yes.
I was
live
tuned
coverage.
in.
Yes. He says no. That is not part of the rules. That's not part of the agreement. We're going for a runoff. So, yes, the National Council has the power to give direction, but is their direction subject to a certain confusion being expressed by the Presidential Electoral Committee? Because I'm sure they will come to give a certain direction if there's confusion. Because if there's no confusion, what are you giving direction about? And I'm telling you the pedigree of the individual who's chairing the committee: a former Speaker of Parliament, a very well experienced lawyer, a political scientist par excellence, a founding member of the party. So you look at the individual handling this. He has handled even more complex matters in Parliament. I'm sure in private practice as a lawyer, he has dealt with even more complex issues. As a founding member of the party, he has seen the party grow from, strength to strength with some of these matters. So where does that come in? That's the conversation. William, have you found the provision yet?
I'm looking at it, Article 12, if I'm getting it right. Where? So, just a minute. I'm just trying to figure out what's the. Article 12 is saying that the National Executive Committee, in consultation with the National Council, shall make rules and regulations governing the organization and conduct of elections of a presidential candidate. So I don't know if it is based on this. Say that the National Executive Committee, in consultation with the National Council, shall make rules and regulations governing the organization and conduct of elections of a presidential candidate. So I think it is based on this that they are looking at this, the whole situation.
But you see,
the interpretation as given by Mr. Boakye Agyarko will hold.
That's right.
The interpretation that the National Council and the National Executive Committee are also giving to this Article 12, they also hold. But once Mr. Agyarko has decided not to contest it, because this constitution is also subject to the national constitution.
Okay, we'll go on to Zoom and speak to Dr. Benjamin Ama Ashite. He speaks for the Boakye Agyarko campaign. But first, listen to Professor Michael Quay, on Saturday with Dr. Sribo Kwaku. Ben, thank you very much indeed for your time. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, my brother. I'm doing great, and I hope you're also doing well.
I am greater than Accra. Give me a second. Let's listen to this together, and then we can come and have a conversation with you.
Very well.
Oh boy, technology. Okay. Not sure. I'm sure we can fetch it up later. Dr. Ben, Dr. Ashide, come in for me now. They move by your candidate. Is it the best at this time? Hello, Dr. Ashite. Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. The move by your candidate, is that the best at this time?
I hear one of your child listening, my brother. This especially when we don't want to be part of. Let me put it an illegality. I've listened to you for a short while when I joined, and you've just nailed it straight. You cannot just take the electoral process in the middle of an electioneering process. And for us, we think it is not the best, and so we will not want to be part of this, because that is not what the rules and regulations that were stipulated by the same committee states. Nevertheless, we before the electioneering process began, we made some contributions, suggestions, and one of them was that they must adopt the border count method, or what we call the ranking voting.
Okay.
So one delegate can vote 5 people, so that issue of tie will not come at all. They said no, they are ready for a runoff, and should there be a tie, they will go for a runoff. So if you are telling me this, preparing to go for a runoff on Saturday, you are telling me that you are actually reducing or taking part of the electoral college for the runoff. It's just suggestion to me that you are not being fair to me, and for us, it is fair for us to just withdraw and have our dignity intact.
Did you, prior to taking this decision, tell the National Council in conference that, look, you are trying to go the wrong direction, or maybe did you consult Professor Michael Quay to tell him that, Prof, this is not what you said on Saturday? Why are you allowing the rules to be changed while you are still there?
On the other hand, it is the National Council, or let me say the election committee, who are supposed to call the candidates involved to inform them that this is what we are trying to do. Do you go for it or not? That is the procedure. And for us, we think that once we know that NEC is the highest decision-making body, going to argue with them here and there, and we know they will not take anything from us. So we say, okay, let's leave the process for you to handle it how you want and how you wish, or how you see.
I see. Hello, Doc.
Yeah, hello.
Dr. Ashte, well, we didn't get the last part of what you said. Could you please repeat yourself? Hello, Dr. Ashite. Yes, I can hear you. We didn't get the last part of your submission. Great. So go ahead. Can you take that again, please?
Yeah. So with all the we must not take part in this.
Right.
But to partake in such means that he is also partaking, which is not good for our party.
I see. All right, Dr. Ashley, I thank you very much indeed for your time, and I wish you all the best, and Mr. Agyarko as well.
Thank you very much.
Great. That's Dr. Benjamin Niyama Ashite. He speaks for the Mr. Boakye Agyarko campaign. Let's go back and listen to Professor Aaron Michael Quay last Saturday, post the declaration of the results. Listen to the prof.
We had made all our regulations in totality, looking at all relevant possibilities. So this is actually nothing new. Someone mentioned possibility of the two persons joining the 4 to make 6. I said that is not possible, and it will be unconstitutional under NPP terms. The present arrangement and exercise must produce 5. Therefore, accordingly, we had earlier put into regulations that in case this should happen, which now you see has happened, next week Saturday, there will be a runoff between the two, so that one will by all means win, or otherwise we continue to have them contest among themselves until we have won.
This is Professor Aaron Michael Quay. Definite.
But I listened to him, and if I got him right, I didn't hear him give elaborate, if you like, explanation as to whether or not the whole 961 will vote.
It goes without saying.
No, I mean, I'm saying, no, you see.
But it goes without saying.
That is your interpretation. I'm saying, I sitting here did not hear, because that's the bone of contention now. Mr. Agyarko's issue is not about them going forward. The issue is that the number has been reduced, because he said there will be a runoff until.
So let's listen to him again.
Yes.
Because he didn't specify the Electoral College.
Yes.
The 961.
He didn't mention that. Yes. And that's where I say the gray area is.
Because somebody even said that at some point they could allow for both of them to join the other 4 to make up a 6. He said that's not possible. Yes. Because he was definite in his mind that they had so tied all the loose ends that no matter what happens, they had a solution for it.
But as we speak, it shows that they haven't tied the loose ends, because the issue of the number has come up.
Let's listen to the prof again.
We had made all our regulations in totality, looking at all relevant possibilities. So this is actually nothing new. Someone mentioned possibility of the two persons joining the 4 to make 6. I said that is not possible, and it will be unconstitutional under NPP terms. The present arrangement and exercise must produce 5. Therefore, accordingly, we had earlier put into regulations that in case this should happen, which now you see has happened, next week Saturday, there will be a runoff between the two, so that one will by all means win, or otherwise we continue to have them contest among themselves until we have won.
Present arrangement and exercise.
For me, what I think might put the nail in the coffin is he says we have exhausted all possibilities. Right. And there will be a runoff. Did that include the possibility that they want to reduce costs?
No. So the possibility.
You see what
I'm saying?
So he said the present arrangement and exercise. What was the present arrangement? That you had 961 people voting in 17 different places. And that was the exercise to trim the number down from 10 to 5.
Johnny, small favor, please go back one more time. When he says all possibilities, I want to tune into that side just to get it. Just to get it.
We had made all our regulations in totality, looking at all relevant possibilities. So this is actually nothing new. Someone mentioned possibility of the two persons joining the 4 to make 6. I said that is not possible, and it will be unconstitutional under NPP terms. The present arrangement and exercise must produce 5. Therefore, accordingly, we had earlier put into regulations that in case this should happen, which now you see has happened, next week Saturday, there will be a runoff between the two, so that one will by all means win, or otherwise we continue to have them contest among themselves until we have won.
will continue to contest among themselves until we have
He
one.
said at the time the rules were made, we had considered all relevant possibilities.
Now, what were the rules? The rules were that you had 961 people drawn from the various blocks within the party. That's one. Number 2 rule is that you had 17 voting places in all the regions. Number 3 is that you are looking for 5 people out of the 10. Number 4 is that people were making suggestions that the 2 should go and join the 4 to make it 6 because we said no, that would be unconstitutional under the NPP, and that the present arrangement and exercise, right, we will have to go and keep going until we get the 5. Present arrangement and exercise.
Although the constitution does give them leeway.
Well,
because the constitution, you see, that's what I'm saying, that when you take the constitution, if you take just one bit of the constitution and you want to read it, you have problems.
That's right.
The constitution is read, you take one and then you connect it to the other and read. So the lawyers or the judges will tell you that the interpretation of the constitution is not just picking and choose. Sometimes you have to read it as a whole.
Can you please read the
beginning
12
Article
for us?
12.
Okay.
They are saying that the National Executive Committee, in consultation with the National Council, shall make, that's the word shall is very key, make rules and regulations governing the organization and conduct of elections of a presidential candidate.
Right.
So they are seeing all the circumstances. And I've just heard them speak about the economy, the cost and everything. And the National Council, they say that, look, let's go forward. Let's reduce the numbers and have a simple exercise to
You know where my issue comes in.
No, you have a point. If you look at what
I'm saying that in order for them to receive any form of direction, the first has to be confusion. Right? If I give you a job to do and go and work with William, and it looks like every time you go, you are fighting, the work is not done. Then I say, okay, now I left it for you. It looks like you are not getting it right. So now I'm coming in to give direction to get the work done the way it has to be done. That is how come, because there are different layers. If you read the different hierarchy. So if Prof says we have considered everything, we have done the rules such that they are sacrosanct, we have considered the present arrangement and process and exercise, and we think that all the other suggestions that I'll be asking for people to have a leeway, blah blah blah, will be unconstitutional in NPP terms. So we will go with the rules we have set. If we get more than what you call it, more than 5 or more than 5, we will keep going until we get a 5. Now we have 4 that are safe. So I'm asking, at what point, because the rules that this National Council is supposed to make, they couldn't have sat and made the rules because they themselves will also vote in the election. So they put together a committee to set out the rules, and they even said that they were going to leave the work for the Electoral Commission to do. Because if you look at the composition of the National Council, there are general secretaries, there are former general secretaries, there are founding members, there are chairmen, there are former presidents, there are former running mates, there are former presidential candidates. All of those people will have a chance to vote. Now, in this present circumstance, that's why they left it for the Electoral Commission. So now if they come to say, okay, we have put ourselves together, and you see, I'm asking this question because the tag of an establishment candidate, if this one goes through, it means that in order to trim it down to number 1, they could also make a decision and say, like, let's reduce it to have a certain number of close user group vote. And then if they are all appointees and members of parliament, because you have to get about 20 members of parliament selected from the caucus in parliament. We have been told by Chairman Sabonso and many others that about 80% of the MPs in parliament support one candidate. So you see the nuances.
So the optics.
So now if you have told me that in parliament, the leader of our side in parliament, who possibly will be at the table when the selection of the 20 reps from parliament will be made to come and join this National Council to vote, has already come out to tell me that he supports candidate A, and that going forward 80% of the people in parliament have already decided, then I must be taken aback, because who will he be selecting? the 20 who fall for candidate 1 or candidate 2. And if the number is trimmed down to 5, and the same National Council decides with the National Executive, to rework the rules such that it's the National Council again that has to take a decision, am I being disadvantaged or not? Those are the questions.
And what kind of precedent do we set if we have rules?
Yes.
And we say, okay, midway through, then we set a very dangerous precedent.
You see, for me, it is not the election committee that set the rules, because their constitution is clear on that.
That's right.
They said the National Executive Committee, not the election committee, in consultation with the National Council, shall make rules and regulations governing the organization and conduct of elections of a presidential candidate.
Okay.
So I sit here and say that they still have that power. That going forward, they can come in and give direction and set the rules. That's what this present arrangement sits on.
Or effectively change the rules.
Yes, that's my interpretation. Now, number 2, establishment candidate. I sitting here, starting from 1992, every election in the 2 major parties, they've had establishment candidates. Anybody should challenge that. Yes, not Dr. Professor Edubuahini was an establishment candidate. Right. Everybody, the voice was for him. Anybody who came close went. I mean, when you come to Nana Akufo-Addo, he was the establishment candidate to the point that they even fought President Kufuor. And then when you come to the NDC, 92, Rawlings was the establishment candidate, and as we speak, John Mahama is the establishment candidate of the NDC. Right. Anybody who attempts. So that establishment candidate thing, it is something that nobody can do anything about. So if I say I will vote for the establishment candidate, I have the right to say that.
But you see, William,
it doesn't also stop the fact that because I'm a member of the National Council, I don't have to let the Constitution work, or I don't have to make the rules. I will make the rules and I will vote anyway.
But you see, William,
because the judges who interpret the Constitution in favor of one party or the other, they vote anyway. That's
knowledge. But see, this establishment conversation, candidate conversation in this particular instance, it comes from a certain historical past. We're talking about Alan Tremantin, for example, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo contested with Dr. Alan Tremantin in the past. There were even conversations that Nana Addo didn't make the 50+1, so there was a concession that he should go, and Nana even made a joke about it that after him he will go first, and then after him comes Alan and all. The dynamics have changed now. Now it looks like majority of the people in government now they want Bawumia, not Alan.
Yes.
Now he thinks that he has also waited for his time.
And
relax, he has waited for his time. He had actually also sacrificed and given way, because he could have also gone on this route that Prof is talking about, contested and recontested until one of them emerges winner. But he decided that, look, in the interest of the party, let me step aside so that you can go. You understand? So now Boakye Agyarko is not stepping aside in the interest of whichever candidate. He's stepping aside in the interest of the rules.
Yes.
So there are two different things. So when you say there's an establishment candidate, right, the dynamics are totally different. Who was Jerry Rawlings contending with?
Because
yes, I'm saying that who was Jerry Rawlings contending with? The people who thought that they wanted to contend with Jerry Rawlings and they weren't given a chance, they went out to go and start their own. Guzi Tando and the rest, they went to start their own
because
things.
Rawlings was the establishment candidate.
They didn't stand a chance.
Yes. Because even if they had stood, they wouldn't. No, I'm saying even if they had stood, right?
They wouldn't have gotten
it. But in this particular primaries, Bawumia is number 1. Kennedy Ejapon, who is a new man on the block, is number 2.
Yeah.
Alan Tremantin is number 3. So you cannot say that their situation is relatable to that of a Dubois, Kufuor, Rawlings, or Akufo-Addo. You can come to the Akufo-Addo conversation with Alan in the picture, because Alan, actually there's record to show that Alan stepped aside for him. You get the point. So now Alan now thinks that, okay, nobody is ready to step aside for me as I did for you. You are not encouraging others to either step aside for me like I did for you. I want to go into this contest on my own merit, but make the playing field fair. That's all they're asking. Now, if you have the leader in parliament telling you that 80% of the people in parliament who are from the NPP side or the NPP stock on the majority side support this candidate 1, you have former national secretary John Boyd, who is former national secretary, right?
That's right.
You have Dambochi, former national secretary. All of those people who have declared open support for candidate one, which is Dr. Bawumia, they have all told you, and they are part of the National Council that will take the crucial decision this Saturday. They have all told you where they stand. And if you look, you aggregate the numbers, they are pointing towards a certain direction. They are the ones trying to alter the rules which have been set and agreed upon by all the candidates. So that if after this Saturday, they decide to alter the rules again, when the 5 will be trimmed down to 1, will it be fair to the 4 candidates?
The party
is what Boakye Agyarko. That's what Boakye Agyarko is asking.
I agree, but you see, I'm sitting here and trying to analyze, not to take. I'm saying that all that Johnny has said, the individuals in there, whether they have the right to openly declare or not, is another matter. But the fact that the Constitution says that the National Council and the National Executive Committee, in consultation to make the rules, that whichever argument we make cannot erase that. And that's where I think that the party is standing on to take the decision that they've taken. Unless something else is coming, they have no other way. That's the only power they have. You understand what I'm saying? So Boakye Agyarko is upset, and he has the right to, like as Johnny is saying, because he knows that the members, some of the members have openly declared their support. That's what it is.
A majority of those in the National Council. Majority of them.
In competitions, these are some of the things. You cannot. That's why he has withdrawn, and I agree.
Well, but it will be in the party's best interest to gauging the temperature to stay away. Personally, from where I sit, it's not helping at all. To use maybe the logistics, the money at the time that they said they had considered all possibilities. Had they considered that as well? That money is a factor.
Because this is not the first time.
That's right.
A special.
Let's note this.
Going on.
Even before August 26, when they went to the polls, they had a meeting with the flag bearer. When we asked them there, at the time, they were not so clear what was going to happen in respect of a tie. We asked that question. Our reporter asked that question.
Right.
And it was later that they came up with this September 2 runoff thing.
Right.
And so, step by step, they keep giving directions or what they are saying now. And that's what is creating the confusion. The man said, I don't want to be part of this, which I think is unconstitutional. But once you don't push for interpretation, that will mean going to the national level to seek interpretation.
I think that's
what
necessary.
He doesn't want to do.
But you see, I think that's necessary because now this is
exactly
necessary.
But see, William, what
until you do that, everybody will pick and choose how to deal with it and interpret
William,
it.
what you read in the Constitution of the New Patriotic Party, I think Article 12, right? It says that the National Council will take that decision with the National Executive.
In consultation.
So now, if I'm coming, they have consulted and have agreed on what's the way for it to alter the rules in the middle of the contest. If I go to them for interpretation, it's just like a cockroach in the Council of Fowls. How do I win?
You see, they should just let the people, the contestants understand. That's the way we can have a way forward. Because if you want proper interpretation, then you want to lift it to the national level. That's where you want justice.
Because if
you do that in a political party, then you are standing outside and
because if you listen to Dr. Benjamin Niamashte, who speaks for the Boakye Agyarko campaign, he said that the proper thing that could have been done was that the candidates in this contest should have been called to say, look,
and I'm
this is what we agreed on, but looking at A, B, C, and D factors, we want to alter the rules to reflect this new direction. What do you say? And then they could have, but this, having written this long letter, right, to Professor Michael Quay, it now puts the decision taken by the National Council in a balance and makes them look undemocratic. Because if you listen to the tone of the letter that Mr. Boakye Agyarko has written, he has written the letter in such a way that, look, you set rules, you have broken the rules, you have changed the rules, you have not told me, I cannot be part of it, it is unconstitutional, respectfully, I'm out.
That's it.
It means that you pushed him out deliberately by changing the rules. That's what he has told you. That number one, we set rules, we agree. Number two, you change the rules without telling me. Number three, I think it is unconstitutional. So I won't be part of it. I'm going. Bye-bye.
So
what does he say?
So how do we get the constitutional interpretation of the articles in the NPP constitution. Because if, as Johnny is saying, if I come to the National Council or the next National Executive Committee, they are going to explain it to me the way they think should work.
Yeah.
And I also pick one part and say, I think this is the way the constitution should work. So I can stand outside and say it is illegal, so I'm stepping out. The only way, as I have always maintained, is that you shift it to the next level, you sue the party, and then they go to the Supreme Court or wherever you want to take it to for interpretation. Because the national constitution is superior to every other constitution this republic.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. So talking about illegality, it doesn't end there by you just saying that it's illegal. Because they also take a bit of the same constitution. They have the power to do what they did.
But you see, what that would do is that it would then put Mr. Agyarko in a position of an unnecessary litigant.
That's why he has stepped away.
Relax, an unnecessary litigant, because you have done this. If you go to the National Council and they say, "Oh, we considered this and this and that," we are not wrong in our interpretation. He may want to lift it further or escalate it and take it to a court of competent jurisdiction. Then people will say, "Oh, this is the man who wants to be president and he's already taking his party to court, blah, blah, blah." But if the cuckoo stops, the kike too will stop. If what exactly went into last Saturday's election in terms of money? Because the party so far has just mentioned it, but they have not said that, "Oh, it cost us so much to pay the Electoral Commission to come and be present there. It cost us so much to get tent. It cost us so much to buy water. It cost us so much to buy a PA system. It cost us so much to invite the press. We gave the press so much solely, because as far as I know, nobody gave anybody." So they should give us the bill and then say that, "Oh, we spent so much on this one. We don't think that we can spend so much on it. That is why we have taken this decision." But to make a blanket statement, not even consult them, boss,
that bit is not.
I mean, even expanding the conversation, I thought by next Monday we would have, done away with this Super Delegates Congress and moved on. But the fallout, I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
The election is happening in 2 days. Right, the runoff is supposed to happen in 2. No, I'm saying if Mr. Agyarko had not pulled out,
yes,
it was supposed to have happened in 2 days, right? Friday, tomorrow, Saturday. So you have just 1 day in between. If you are now going to look for interpretation, the party would think that you are even wasting their time, because they have a November 4 deadline to meet. So they would push you aside.
At the time when they announced the runoff would happen, had they started preparing the tent and the PA system to accommodate for Saturday, or they realized that
when
they
met the press before
Professor Michael
the party did not know what they were going to do. Professor Boakye was speaking like that because that September 2 thing came after that first initial initial meeting.
Let's take a break. We'll return from this break. I'm sure we can continue. We'll connect with Mr. Richard Ahyangba. He speaks for the New Patriotic Party. And then we will hear from him why they had to take this decision in the middle of the journey. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yes, so cool. Betway's cash out just got way better. Our enhanced early, partial, and auto cash out feature lets you cash out your bet out early. Cash out a portion of